Let's look at Jesus versus Muhammad, okay? According to the doctrine that we have in the Bible, the Quran, and the other books, Jesus did not kill anyone. Muhammad is estimated to have killed 3,000 people himself. Jesus led no armies. Okay, Muhammad led armies, and he fought in anywhere from 66 to 100 battles and raids. That number varies, but those are the numbers that we do have. Jesus did not own slaves. Muhammad took 1/5 of all slaves captured in battle as booty, and he owned numerous dozens of slaves. Jesus never married. Muhammad had anywhere from 11 to 22 wives, 11 at one time, up to 22 wives over his career as and then the youngest of whom was 6 years old. Now, someone tried to front load that one by claiming she was 18 or something, but I can get into lengthy detail about her age. There's numerous Quranic references, or numerous references to her being 6 and 9 when they consummated the marriage. Jesus did not torture anyone. Muhammad, when he conquered Khaybar, or Khubr, as it said when I was in Saudi, the last Jewish settlement in Arabia, he tortured the chief, Kinana, K-I-N-A-N-A, because he wouldn't say where the treasure was hidden. He built a fire on his chest. Jesus never lied. Muhammad permitted lying, okay? He did also say war, as I showed earlier, war is deceit. And this is a subject worth covering, possibly another show, because we may well run out of time, but we can cover the issue of Islamic deceit. I will briefly cover that towards the end. Okay. Jesus did not order assassinations, and we can read several accounts in the Hadith of Muhammad having men, women, and children killed, assassinated. He ordered their deaths, okay, including a baby at one point that was killed. Okay, Jesus never forced conversions. Now, some of his disciples left him. Okay, he allowed them to go. In Islam, if you turn away from Islam, the penalty is death. That's apostasy. Muhammad forced conversions, and he said, whoever changes his Islamic religion, kill him. Again, we can go into detail. I can cite all the references for that. Jesus forgave insults. Forgive them, they know not what they do. This is called Sab al-Rasul, and it is avenged in Islam. And people who do that can be killed. People were assassinated. There are examples of those in the Hadiths. Jesus did not allow rape. Muhammad allowed rape of captured women, even if married. I had a lengthy discussion with someone last week about that very thing. It was a huge debate. No apostle was a governor or a general. The caliphs were all governors and generals, and all went to war and killed people. Jesus said God is the Father. Muhammad said, this is blasphemy. You are Allah's slave. God is not your father. Jesus said, we are children of God. Muhammad said, Allah cannot have a wife. This is blasphemy. Jesus said, we are made in the image of God. And here, Allah has no image. And we know what happened at Charlie Hebdo for publishing images of just Muhammad. Never mind images of Allah. Jesus said we have a personal relationship with God. In Islam, that is not the case. That is blasphemy. In the first 300 years of Christianity, Christians were fed to lions. In the first 300 years of Islam, they conquered from Arabia to Paris. And then Jesus died on the cross. Repentance leads to salvation. And for Muhammad, this was the crime of shirk, the unforgivable sin. Okay? So now, oddly enough, Allah claims to have no partners, but he's the only eternal one, yet he has these eternal tablets from which the Quran was taken, right, and given to Muhammad, these eternal tablets that exist in heaven with him. But also, if you remove Muhammad from Islam, you're only left with 14% of the original text. Muhammad constitutes 86% of the text. Jesus raised someone from the dead. Muhammad did precisely the opposite.
And all of Jesus's apostles were killed, and all of Muhammad's apostles were killers.
But let's consider Abu Bakr, the first caliph. Some accounts say he died of sickness. Other accounts say he was poisoned. Umar ibn Khattab, killed by a Persian slave, stabbed. Uthman, okay, stabbed to death after a siege. Ali, assassinated in 661. And Aisha, Muhammad's wife, she fought Ali. She captured Basra with her army. Okay, she executed 640 people and she tortured the governor. Ali defeated Aisha at the Battle of the Camel. 10,000 Muslims died. Okay, she died apparently at 67 on 16 July 678. Reports say she may have been killed by a man called Muawiyah, who then succeeded Ali. This is the fate of the people closest to Muhammad, of his followers. I mean, these were all violent deaths, or potentially violent deaths. So it's a very, very different example when we compare those two. And I mean, this is something, again, that merits deeper investigation. I mean, these people led armies, they killed thousands, they died violent deaths. So how, if we consider these definitions, is this a religion of peace? And it says in the definitions I gave, it is peace when the entire world submits to Islam. And
right.
Islam is
it's not peace by everyone living and seeking truth as God or Logos. It's peace through submission to the Quran and to Islam, and not, it's entirely it's the antithesis, really, of Christianity and peace through truth.
Correct. That is a very, very different approach to. So how can it be the same now? How could it be the same God? How can Allah be the same as Yahweh? There are 6 forms of, in terms of the doctrine of Islam, for sacred lying, which is this here. There's taqiyya, okay, which is Shia, but it's called mudrat for the Sunnis, tactical deceit for the purposes of spreading Islam. Kitman, tawriya, taysir, darura. These 3 are probably the most common. Deceit by ambiguity. Taysir is ease and necessity. Taysir and darura. Ease, in other words, you can forego all of the tenets of Islam. You can not observe all of the tenets of Sharia just so that you can get along. Deceit through necessity and muruna. So there are 6 different forms. Let me answer one other question that came up. Someone posted, but the best deed in Islam, okay, and they quoted, what is the best deed? He replied, to offer prayers at their fixed times. Someone posted that. Now, if you go, what is next in goodness? To be good and dutiful to your parents, because he left that part out. And of course, he left out the third one. I further asked, what is next in goodness? He replied, to participate in jihad in Allah's cause. Sahih Bukhari 2782. That's book 56, hadith 1. So one needs to ask, and in fact, you can find there's other hadith, Bukhari 2784. We consider jihad as the best deed. Should we not fight in Allah's cause? Okay, so people are doing partial posts. They're taking a partial quote,
straw man arguments,
and then they are posting that as a complete argument. It is not. So, for instance, Imam Ghazali is considered the most famous Muslim theologian and philosopher of all time after Muhammad, and he talks about deception to attain goals and prosperity. This is in the Sharia. Islamic sacred law. Speaking is a means to achieve objectives. If a praiseworthy aim is attainable through both telling the truth and lying, it is unlawful to accomplish it through lying. But when it is possible to achieve such an aim by lying, but not by telling the truth, it is permissible to lie if attaining the goal is permissible. You can lie if that will keep you from evil or if it will result in prosperity. That's in the Sharia.
And in Christianity, in John 8:44, and this is about lying. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and has never stood for truth, since there is no truth in him. Whenever he tells a lie, he speaks in character, because he is a liar and the father of lies. So in Christianity, lying is Satanism and of the devil.
This is definitely something worth exploring in depth. I wanted to introduce, because last week I introduced the subjects I wanted to discuss. This week I think I've completed that, so that except for talking about women, I'm going to do one last thing. You guys see my screen here?
Yep.
Now, the Quran often translates this word to schemed or plot or plan. And they, the disbelievers, schemed, and Allah schemed against them. Quran 3:54. And Allah is the best of schemers. The Arabic word here for scheme or plot or plan is makara, and literally means deceit. Now, if we go look online, it says here, to practice deceit, guile, or circumvention, desiring to do another a foul and an abominable or an evil action, clandestinely or without their knowing. So if makr is the actual word that should replace this word schemed, why was it changed? Why aren't they just quoting the original Arabic word? So this states that Allah is the best of deceivers. I mean, that is a really, one needs to think about that. He practiced an evasion, a shift, an artifice, a contriver, a machination, a trick, a plot, a stratagem. So sure, one can take many of these, but the actual word here is deceit. That's the first word listed, deceit. Something to bear in mind. And this is, I would challenge people to stop and think about, that Quran. How accurate is it? How faithful is it to the original?